is helping businesses like yours to succeed. Here's what Alan Brown of Maple Lane Farms of Preston had to say about doing business with Jewett City Savings Bank.
Well, I was looking for a new local bank, so I investigated Jewett City and decided to go with Jewett City on a refinancing of our loan at Maple Lane Farms. They were very engaged. The process went very smoothly. We did not only a refinance with the Maple Lane property, but a construction loan on the colonial house that's on the property that we're converting into an Airbnb. They were interested in my business. They got very engaged and the process went very smooth. So I would recommend in a heartbeat Jewett City Savings.
To learn more about how the commercial lending team at Jewett City Savings Bank can assist you, call 860-376-4444 or go to jcsbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Streaming live.
I love it. It's the best rock station ever.
We listen to you all the time.
Broadcasting from within our 6 feet social distance.
The streaming news and sports network.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's 11 minutes after 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning, but you already knew that. And this morning, what's the matter, Paul? Are you okay?
I got a blank.
You got a blank.
So hold off. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you do the weather?
That's blank.
All right. No weather from Paul today. It's going to be sunny today. High around 48 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy with a chance of rain on your overnight. And tomorrow, sunny once again, highs around 51 degrees. So, all right, we have Jim Barney here. Good morning, Jim. Jim, why don't you tell us what boards you're on so we can get that, so get your credibility, boom, right in there.
I don't know what boards I'm on, to be honest with you, Mike. I'm on
The one
5, 6, or 7 or something like that.
You're on a bunch.
Yeah.
You're on a bunch. Okay, so I guess we'll leave it at that. Boy, this is
I mean, I guess the one you're specifically referring to is I am on the senior center building committee. If that's what you were trying to get out there.
Right. Well, we're going to talk senior center. We're going to talk the building committee. You know, we're going to talk about the funding and stuff. And then we have Paul Lash, who is on the public health and safety board, who's here. But have you guys met in the last 2 years?
Nope.
No.
EDC also.
Yeah, I don't know why. Why aren't you guys meeting?
Well, Paul and I have talked about it, and I talked to Todd about it, and I think it's in our hands to somehow or other get some kind of a meeting called. We only have one officer, and I don't know, but I mean, through all of this, for the Public Health and Safety Board to have not held a meeting since I believe January of last year, that's an abomination.
Yeah. I don't know why people aren't having meetings. With the technology that's available, it should be happening.
Well, EDC's been canceled for the last 2 months as well.
All right. I don't want to play tit for tat. I want to say, why is it not happening?
I don't know. I just think that people are afraid, I guess. I mean, we have.
Afraid of what?
Well,
of your own computer in front of you? I don't. I know, but I'm putting it to you because I'm wondering why, these boards are not meeting.
We're not an officer. We're not. All we are is a member. We have an officer.
Neither Paul nor I have the authority to call a meeting.
We're not an officer.
So how can you change that?
We can, but we have a meeting. But we're trying to get a meeting, but we just can't get one.
Can't you go to the board of selectmen and say, hey, look, our fearless leader's not calling a meeting?
I suppose we could, but
that's what needs to be done.
There you go. So it can be done.
I mean, you can't stop a town because Jesus.
Exactly.
This is asinine.
Paul, I'm not trying to blow up your spot. What I'm trying to tell you is that these meetings can happen.
I know,
hook or by crook, they can happen. So
I just think that we have a person who's our officer, who's an elderly person who probably is just kind of afraid of sitting down in a meeting. And we don't even know if we have the other members involved anymore.
Well, see, that's the point.
We don't know.
So
the only ones that we know are Jim and I.
I mean, we're really here for Scott, and I think this is a debate we ought to have.
Yeah, he's right. We're here for Scott. We're here for you.
I'm here for you guys.
Well, I didn't even know
Scott.
Scott was coming in this morning. So.
Here I am trying to give you guys credibility, and you guys, we haven't met in 2 years. I don't know what the hell's going on. Well, let's shut Mike down because we don't want to talk about it and be exposed.
I was
Right.
just trying to
Sorry,
be
Scott.
courteous to our guests.
It's my nasty side. All right. Good morning, Scott Davis, the Board of Finance Chair. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Breathe in, breathe out, sir. Breathe
I'm
in.
doing
breathe out.
well.
So last night was the special meeting for the Board of Finance to talk about the cost overruns with the senior center. I had the privilege last night to read all of the troll comments after the fact, that everything happened. So can you give us just before we start asking like specific questions, can you give us a brief overview or a synopsis of what happened last night?
Sure. I'll do my best to give you a Reader's Digest. I mean, it was I don't know, 2.5 hour meeting.
A little over
roughly.
2 hours, yeah.
So I'll try to do my best and hit all the high points or low points in a 5-minute spiel. But first and foremost, I do apologize. It came to my attention, during, and it was kind of hard to adjust it on the fly in the middle of the meeting, but certainly at the end, that the audio was, I guess, kind of similar to the old Charlie Brown commercials where you see, Charlie Brown and Peppermint Patty sitting in the classroom and you hear the teacher and all you hear is wah, 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 wah,
Yeah.
wah. So, that's good feedback. It's upsetting because it really was my intention to try to make this as available to the masses as possible. It was important for us to meet in person, and I'm glad that we did. I don't think that we would have had the discussion and got the information that we did last evening had we done it just via Zoom. I do appreciate the fact that the public did pay attention to our request that they do Zoom in as opposed to trying to go in person. I do apologize, and I'm disappointed that the audio side didn't work out as well.
It was good. Just the saving grace was Dana Bennett
Yes,
last night, who was there with her personal devices.
Yes,
and did stream it. So
yeah. Many thanks to her, because she was at least I was able to get out. We're going to have a follow up. I'll talk to that again. I have put some thought into it to be able to address those shortcomings so that we don't have that same issue. Moving forward for the next meeting, because we are going to have one more additional meeting that's going to have the same hybrid approach live for us, with a request that the public Zoom in, and understanding that the audio was a significant issue, which I think is just, magnified by the fact that y'all have to wear masks and everything's muffled to begin with. But I've thought of some adjustments, and I'm going to try to coordinate that so that the audio is okay moving forward. So, moving into the meeting, we met last evening because it had in late January, really through contact from a citizen in town, we became aware that there was a shortfall in the senior center construction budget. At that time, we weren't exactly sure what it was. The swag was, $300,000 to $900,000. Coming into the meeting, we were provided with a list of what the deferred items that are going to allow completion to take place. And that was right around, I think, 941,000, if my memory serves me correctly. So we had a list. We had requested a lot of documentation, contracts, change orders, construction manager reports. I mean, you name it, we asked for it. So we started the meeting out where we had, some commentary from Rob Perrett, who is the chair of the senior building committee. And then Dave Fritz also, who is represents the PAC group, who is the general contractor. Tina Falk, obviously, she's the senior director. And then the first selectman, Todd Babbitt. And basically we opened up the floor and said, how did we get here? Why did we get here? And when did you first know about it? And the response was, and I'm going to really kind of shorten this down, was really, they knew about it in October when they signed the contract. That at that point it was already about $1.3 million over budget. There were some obvious, some COVID issues that then added to that and made that more complicated. But out of the gate, the cost was 1.3 million. I believe was the number over where it was supposed to be.
And this is after the agreement was already signed?
This is when they signed the agreement. So, so we received that info. The construction manager, our general contractor, talked. He put in some things to mitigate and minimize some of the runaway costs, buying out subs and pre-buying material, holding them to certain numbers to actually kind of lessen the blow. And then we went into kind of a question and answer session. I came out of the gate probably a little hot, I guess might be the best way to describe it. In my opinion, I went back, I looked through, meeting minutes. And as I pointed out last night, I'm looking at the printed minutes now. Printed minutes aren't designed to capture recorded conversations. They really are only there to document the actions that occurred. Yet in every minutes, there are little bits and pieces of what may have been said. And, I was able to successfully track. And then I went to a few of those, meetings before the referendum where the project had always been sold that, hey, it's shovel ready, it's turnkey, we're ready to go, we have everything in place. It's only going to cost the taxpayers $7.5 million to get the senior center. Now you ask why we bonded it at 7.6, because we had bonding costs that had to be carried as part of that. And part of that 7.5 million, I think, and I could be way off base of this, but I tend to think that the project was supposed to be somewhere around 7 to 7.2 with the remaining in contingency. So that's all we ever heard. That's all the public ever heard, because I know that I went to a few of those, informational meetings. It gets passed through, the voters vote on it. And then the first document that we see is in October, they sign a contract that says, hey, this is going to cost $8.3 million. And I'm thinking, what the heck? You told us you were ready to go, and your firm number was $7.5 million. How could it be 8.3? Because if it was 8.3, why would you put together a budget number of something less?
And this is after the referendum.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So what came out as part of that conversation is that when this package was put forth to the voters, to the public before the vote was put forth to us, that it was understood and known by, I don't know how many people that were handling it. The prints were incomplete. They were only going off of partial prints, whether they were 60%, 80%, whatever the case may be. They were floating a number that we can build a senior center for $7.5 million based on whether it's 60% complete prints or 80% complete prints. The project wasn't done. Now, automatically at that point, I kind of redlined. What are you talking about? You told us it could be done for this, and you didn't bother to share with anyone that this was based on an incomplete, data. So,
And who didn't share it? Was it the contractor, the GC themselves, or
it was known? It was known certainly between, the GC. I'm going to assume the architect, and certainly, I would assume all of the senior building committee.
Okay.
If not, it was known at least by the chair, because it was the chair last evening.
Jim is shaking his head no, and Jim's on that committee.
Okay. So it was brought forth last night by the chair of that committee. So, I looked at that, and I look at it from the standpoint of saying, well, wait a minute. If you're selling us on $7.5 million and that that's not going to be the number, how in good faith can you sign a contract X number of months later for 8.3 million? Well, so what they had to do is they had to then value engineer the project. Now, don't ask me what that means. I'm not a construction guy. I relied heavily on last evening on Dan Webster. That's really in his wheelhouse to be able to decipher all of that. But they had to value engineer a lot of these components out of the project in order to try to hit and try to hit the number. Well, the problem is that everything got valued engineered out of the project are more or less items that you need to be able to get a CO and open the building. So, here we are kind of fast forward, and and that's what we're dealing with now. And then, obviously the rest of the board um, ask their questions as well. Like I said, Dan Webster was a tremendous, a phenomenal resource with his background, that he was really able to take the guaranteed maximum price contract, and he was able to really dissect that and be able to ask questions and explain it to a point where the rest of the board was able to understand exactly what was going on. And there were pieces within that contract where there were options um, to be able to reject certain items within there, which basically means that instead of doing this, hey, you can take this out to save money, or hey, you can go with a lesser quality of this to save money. And all of those items were rejected, which was a savings of, or would have been a savings of, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $500,000. So there was quite a bit of discussion last evening on all of this. It is really the feeling of the board that we do not want to proceed until we can find out whether or not we can have a referendum, because we believe that if this project was voted on initially by the taxpayers and by the community, then they really need to have a say, moving forward in that. We did ask the question of how many grants and what kind of outside funding has been pursued, because we were told that when the referendum was initially passed, they weren't going to stop going down that avenue as a way to defray the cost. Due to COVID, we were told that a lot of that kind of came to a standstill. And in the months prior to that, I think maybe there was one thing that had been applied for. I believe Heather Summers had applied for something, but then of course that got shelved because then COVID hit. So there's been no outside monies that have been received on that. So right now, there are a number of things that are being researched, the legality of things, because like I said, we want to, if we're going to do anything, we want to hold a referendum to have it done. We don't believe that it should just be done by magic wand. Here it is, and everybody's going to have to deal with it. Um, the long and short of it is we have a $7 million building that if we don't do something is going to sit there and never be able to be used, that we're going to have to pay utilities on to at least keep it heated, and we're going to have to maintain whether it's used or not, and we're end up going to have to pay the bill on it, because we're going to have at least a $7.5 million or $7.6 million bond on it right now, whether we use it or not. So looking at some options last evening, one of the options was to look at additional bonding. That was not recommended because it was costly. It was not cost effective. It was also a lengthy process, and there are some timelines, because right now they're working on punch list items. Once they get through punch list items, the general contractor's done. He's off site and ready to move on, but he has in trying to mitigate some of this, he has worked with and negotiated with the subcontractors to be able to extend their numbers out through a set date if we can get everything kind of squared away. So really the two viable options are one, and viable is really probably a bad way to say that. The two options that are really on the table are this. One is to take the money out of the general fund. We do have I want to say a $5.5 million surplus. We sit at about, I think, 15% right now.
And if they took the money out, it'll knock you down to about what, 12? I think Eric was saying.
It brings us down to about 12%. Now, by policy, I think we've got to be at 8 or 8.5%. But our policy is really outdated, because now when we go through the audit every year, the new number that we're supposed to hit and we're supposed to maintain is between 12.5 and I think 15. And as Gail brought up last night, in the terms of bonding and financial institutions to have a good rating, they want to see you at about 15. Right out of the gate. So that was one option. The other option is to say, hey, Grizzle taxpayers, if we've got to fund, $941,000, we're going to tack that on to the mill rate, and you're going to have to pay for it. That's option two. So We do have another meeting that is scheduled on the 4th. That's going to be a joint meeting between us and the senior building committee. And what we're going to go through, and right now the general contractor is working on really breaking down that deferment list. And we're going to go through that list, and we're going to see, okay, what can be omitted. Because as far as we're concerned now, it's almost like a wish list. We're like, hey, when you're out of money, you have no choice. You may want, the champagne and caviar because it's going to give you longevity and it's a better material. But if we can't afford that and we've got to go with something else to be able to get the project done, and you've got to look at a 10-year shelf life instead of a 20-year shelf life, then that's kind of where we're at. So we are meeting again on the 4th with them. We're going to go over that list, try to tweak that, try to look at what can be either eliminated or what can be purchased or installed at a lesser quality than what was initially spec'd out. What else? What else am I missing? They're doing some research now. Apparently, there are two grants that are in the works that they are hoping to have some information sooner than later, which could defray that cost from what we're told, maybe as much as $500,000 to $700,000. So our share would be two to four roughly. And then of course they're also right now going through and researching the referendum piece as well. So we hope to have all of that wrapped up and available for us come our meeting.
I have a comment that, like last night on Dana Bennett's stream, I put on it, and I've said this the last time you were here. I said, if we can vote on an election, we can vote on a referendum.
Hey, if we can go to Walmart and Home Depot, we can vote on a referendum.
Well, the registrar of voters then commented underneath me, and I want to read this to you, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Jennifer, it's just Jennifer Lynn on Facebook. I don't know what her last name is, but off the top of my head. But the governor's executive powers expire on April 19th. Budget votes will/should occur after that date. And therefore, we will revert back to the quote unquote typical budget process unless there is an emergency certification from the General Assembly. Voting will occur in person unless changed. Does this have anything to do with the referendum that we were talking about?
So I'm going to say maybe, and I'll respond, I guess, to that comment, and then I'll kind of explain my maybe. I'll believe it when I see it. We've seen the governor's powers be extended, once or twice already. Who's to say that it's not going to be extended again? What am I from? I'm from what is that? Missouri, the Show Me State.
Yeah.
When I say maybe on the other, what we were told last evening, they Eric had reached out to the town attorney for some clarification on the referendum because he and I had spoken about that. Earlier last week in preparation for last evening. And what the town attorney had said was any referendum at this point is I guess forbidden, and selectmen would be able to act on it without it having to go to referendum. So they're doing some research. Can we get a waiver? It was also brought to our attention, and we were forwarded some documents last evening from a citizen that I have forwarded along.
And that was Eric Christensen that brought that up, wasn't it? About the referendum that probably won't happen.
Correct. He had
under the current situation.
That's correct.
That's why I wanted to read that comment because it didn't really make much sense to me after what I heard you guys say last night.
Sure, absolutely. I forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry. I totally threw you off.
It'll come back to me in like 10 minutes when it's not relevant.
I think for me as a taxpayer, I would like to see it come out of the general fund because I can't afford another mill rate. I mean, keep in mind, we just got to reevaluate it.
Mm-hmm.
So our taxes are going up again.
Well, Paul, we haven't even seen that increase.
I know.
We haven't even seen that adjustment. I shouldn't say increase because that adjustment won't happen until actually next year. And I say adjustment because you're right. It's hard to go through a budget cycle and not have some sort of an increase, but there is a perception that with reval, your taxes are automatically going to go up because property values went up. If everyone does their job they submit budgets that are still within reason or they're conservative. If the Board of Finance does their job, there should be an adjustment to the mill rate to offset for that
Okay.
increase.
Gotcha.
So, if property values went up by X, well, if we kept the mill rate the same, holy moly, everybody's taxes are going to go through the roof. If we're doing our job and everything else was flat at zero,
Okay.
we should be able to lower the mill rate,
Gotcha.
so that everything's level.
Yeah,
Well,
and the
if I'm
other,
not-
go ahead, Jim.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the grand list has increased in this assessment also, so that's gonna help a little bit.
It has,
Because now you got more taxable assets in the town.
I'm going to give you some numbers, but don't take these as being 100% accurate because it's early. I'm going off of memory, and that happened a couple of weeks ago when we got those, and I don't have that documentation with me. But I want to say the grand list went up something like 20 or 25 million or something like that, and that would equate to somewhere around 500 and something $1,000 in tax revenue based on that coming up.
So that's
However,
2/3 of a mill.
However, if you look at what the budgets are, preliminarily coming in at, and I haven't seen the town side, we have had some discussions on the school side and what they're presenting. I mean, that obviously exceeds what that additional revenue is, number one. The other thing is that I think included in that grand list number increase is some tax revenue from the solar farms out on
130, on 160,
Yes.
138.
Yeah. And we were told though that currently right now is in litigation. I don't believe we're in litigation with it, but I think the solar farm is looking for some sort of a ruling because the town's position is, hey, look, you're generating, power for others. It's a business. It should be taxed. And I think they're looking at some sort of a loophole or something to say, no, it shouldn't be. So, the question there is, okay, do you count it as revenue, not knowing how that is going to be decided, or don't you count it as,
My opinion is you
as
play it
revenue?
safe and you don't count it.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned, and this is a variation from what we really are here, but you brought up the solar farm, is because I understand they're now adding on to that one that's already built. And as I recall, when this was all going on, there was some, if the generation was below 2 or 3 megawatts, they were not taxable, but above that they were.
Right.
So my concern is, did they play a game with us, and did they build this at 2 or 3 megawatts, and now they're going to add it, and they thought they were going to get away with it?
Right. And that's, and I heard the
same
similar thing that initially when that was what I had heard also. And, I hate to spread rumor because I wasn't told this personally, but I had heard the same thing that, initially when it came in, it was going to be like a 5 megawatt system, and a 5 megawatt system was fully taxable. And what they did was they broke it up. Instead of installing it like that, they broke it up, 1 2 megawatt and 1 3 megawatt to try to fly under the radar and say, oh no, here's our exemption now. But I did hear the same thing, that there is some land cleared out there.
I
As
think
well.
there was three. I think there's three separate plants that were going. I was heavily involved in the solar program for the town of Griswold, so
Yep.
I was deeply involved in it. But it's that's a few years ago, and
Sure.
the memory is not there anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, it certainly is something worth researching.
Right. What kind of surprised me out of this whole thing, because I went around with Jim, we were pushing all these referendums. We were pushing, the 164, the infrastructure stuff. And of course, Tina was along with the other one. But I was always under the impression, didn't they get a grant to begin with to create the design, the documents and everything else? It's like $250,000.
It was, I thought it was maybe 300,000 or
that
300 and
covered-
change. And that was just for, I think, the initial plans or designs or
okay.
something. And you're right, just to get that done, because, and the only reason why I remember that is because I know that there's always this other discussion that is going on about, well, that shouldn't just be a senior center, it should be a community
they
center or
couldn't-
There have
whatever.
been some comments
And-
here about that as well.
And the only reason why I remember that is because the counter to that is always, from what I hear, well, based on this initial, grant that we received for the initial design or to
Couldn't
kick it
do it.
off, that locked it into only a senior center.
Correct.
I don't know.
No, I think you're right. That's what I heard.
I have a question, and this goes back to what you started saying initially when you first started speaking. You had said we we had mentioned about when did this all come to light? When did this happen? You said October. You said you heard from a quote unquote resident. So to me, that's a little unsettling that you heard from a resident and not maybe somebody that would have been in the know to say, "Hey, look, we're a mill out."
That was part of, I guess, and I'll have to maybe call it a rant. That was part of my initial rant last evening, and that was certainly a large point of contention with the rest of the board, in that you knew this going into it in October, signed the documents knowing that the contract value far exceeded what had been approved, yet from October 2019 until January 2021, at no time did we ever receive any information that this was going on, and that question had been asked every meeting that we have, every regular meeting that we have. If you go back and you look at our agenda items, there is always an agenda item that says discussion on bonding projects. And the question is always there for what are the updates on the projects? The question is always what are the updates on the senior center? In fact, that question is always very, very specific. When we talk about the bonding projects, we get information on everything, and then we don't get a lot of information on the senior center building project. So that question is always asked, where does that stand? Where are the costs? Where are we on that? And the information that comes back is always extremely limited. It was always very limited to, we may have some additional costs based on some COVID expenses, and we may have some additional costs based on the project going longer due to COVID and having to pay some extra construction management costs. We never, ever received any information. It didn't flow through, and that makes absolutely no sense.
So
I was just
go ahead, go for it.
No, well, my question is, if we created a building committee to look at this stuff before anything could get done, what the hell was the reason for the building committee? Aren't their responsibility when something's going with the project, you bring it to the building committee and they make a decision to assist with the project? Sounds to me like that never happened.
Yeah, like Scott, if something goes awry with the Board of Finance, they're going to come after you, correct? Being the board chairman?
Yeah, they're going to start with me.
They're going to start with you, exactly.
I'll be thrown under the bus first. Yes,
exactly. So who gets questioned now? You said Rob Perrette was there last night, and this is on the agenda every month, for a Board of Finance meeting. Why was none of this communicated if it was known back in October?
Right.
That's what I mean. Where's the answer for that?
I know. I mean, they were trying to put additional things into the construction with vapor money, I guess. I guess they just pull it out of the air and there it is.
I mean, we're just facilitating conversation. I mean, I believe the senior center, or the seniors should get a new center. They've certainly outgrown the one that they have now. Yeah. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is this communication, and whoever is on that committee or had that information that wasn't very forthcoming on it. What happens now?
My opinion is this, and it's only my opinion. We're here through what I would say is first and foremost some extremely bad communication. Secondly, I think we're here because I don't know if things were rushed or pushed through too quickly. I still struggle, and it's because I don't have that construction background, that whole value engineered piece. But I still can't connect the dots on how you can sell a $7.5 million senior center and then sign a contract for 8.3 and have to take items out in order to hit that number. That I don't understand that, and like I said, maybe it's that piece that I don't know within those contract because I don't have that background. The unfortunate part is and we can yell, we can scream, we can be upset, we can point fingers at people, and I'm a firm believer that if there are issues and there should be some accountability, then there has to be accountability, and people need to be put on notice. But we also need to now move forward because, like I said before, we've got a $7.5 million building up there that is
not usable.
That's not usable. It can't be occupied. that we have to pay the bill on whether we're going to use it or not. So we've got to figure this thing out. We got to be able to move forward. There's a lot of moving pieces and parts, because I certainly don't want to, I'm on the Board of Finance, but I'm also a taxpayer. I don't want my taxes to go up any more than they have to. I certainly don't want them to go up because, a project that we thought was X is now X times, X times 2 or X plus 50, or, whatever the metric is. I don't like that.
I do like
But-
the comment that somebody made that this should not affect the infrastructure projects on 164 and 201, because this is a completely
It
different.
was Dan
project.
Webster said, "Don't take from that."
You don't. I think
So I agree. I agree 100%. And interestingly enough, when that was said, immediately I had another question in my mind, and another big concern. Here we are on this project, where we find out, after the fact, that there were partial drawings. We find out that it was going to be this much, and 6 months later, it's really this much. That infrastructure project now was bonded, I believe, $6 million. We are coming up, I think, on the 2-year anniversary from when that referendum occurred.
2019.
How much more is it going to cost now to have the water and the sewer put in? How much more is that infrastructure project going to run? Because I find it hard to believe that if we couldn't get the senior center project in under budget with only a 6-month lag, what do we got? What do we got now? We've got a 2-year.
Yeah.
Got a question somebody asked. Rich in the room asks, the contract that was signed, is it? Would that be an illegally signed contract?
That's
in October. That would be something a lawyer would have to answer.
Don't know.
Can we ask Gail Rook Norman, who is an attorney and is on the Board of Finance?
You could ask her. I'm not so certain that she'd give you an answer. She would probably say you need to contact the town attorney or contact the town.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. She's not going to stick her neck out any more than I am.
Yeah. Huh. There's a lot of people are pretty.
Is it really illegal if you had the proper town officials sign on the contract?
I mean, I suspect it's not illegal,
I don't
but
think
I'm
it's
not an
illegal.
attorney.
I
And
mean,
I don't play one on TV. I don't.
So let's say Paul's going to come over and he's going to fix your shed. Let's say you have a shed, right? All right. And Paul says to you, it's going to cost you $1,000 for me to come out here and complete the job from start to finish. Paul comes out and says, you know what? It's now going to cost you $1,250. Your response is,
Well, if I've got a contract that says you're going to do it for
Exactly.
$1,000,
There you
you're
go.
at $1,000. But our contract was a little bit different. Our contract was signed. It was signed at 8.3.
Right.
They automatically valued engineered out over $1 million. About 1 point. I don't know. I've got it right here. I'm going to say probably about 1.3. I think they value engineered out of that, contract to bring it down to just under 7.1 million. Well,
Right.
when you value engineer all that and they deferred it, it doesn't go away. It still has to, that stuff still has to be done at some point. That's where we are right
did the
now.
GC put in some sort of a proposal for $7.2 million, right around there? Is that where that money came in? Because if that's where the money came in, then I think you should take this document from October, put it on a plate, put a potato next to it, put some steak sauce on it, and eat it.
Well, I think that I don't know if I'd want to eat it, but
Not you, but whoever made that. I mean, you know what I mean? Like if the GC is now saying,
yeah, the GC has done quite a bit to try to hold costs at this point, with everything that has gone on. But I'm not so certain, and maybe I shouldn't speak to this.
and if I'm sounding like an idiot, tell me I'm sounding like an idiot.
I don't think it's as simple as what you say, Mike, because my understanding from the discussions last evening is when we were told that the project was going to be $7.5 million, we were all led to believe that was a firm number. Well, it wasn't. It was just a it was more of a grab. Here's the number it's going to be. And they didn't know really what the number was until they signed the contract later on, because as I talked about earlier, they grabbed this out of the air based on an incomplete set of drawings.
Which I would now question the dollar amount. I'll be back to the infrastructure project. Where did those numbers come from? Are we in the same situation that it was underestimated? I don't know. So there's some questions we should ask before we move forward with that. We have a firm number that's
Yeah.
right on, we don't know.
Perception is reality.
I know.
I mean, if somebody put something out there, I mean, look at the general public. I don't know anything about these contracts personally.
That's why you pay design people to come up with these values, so they tell you what it costs. I mean, you pay them money to do this because the everyday guy can't do it. So I would reevaluate what the cost is before we even start.
Yeah, and I think the general public is thinking, okay, well, we were told it's going to cost this. Now all of a sudden, it's not going to cost that. So I think this is where the offense comes in as far as residents are concerned,
Right.
because now all of a sudden there's a threat to them about their mill rate going, their taxes going up, and for information they were not able to make a decision on.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate it happened to this because it puts a black mark on something that was going to be something good for the community.
Yeah, I mean,
And we're not
certainly,
chomping on you, Scott. I mean, we understand where the Board of Finance, sits on this. So.
I mean, certainly, I think that in listening to everybody last evening, some questions got answered. There were a lot of questions that still kind of remained in my mind. I hate buzzwords and catchphrases. The one that I hate the most right now is in these unprecedented times. My God, that drives me absolutely crazy. So I hate to have to be the one to use it, but I mean, there were some other things that have come up. I mean, obviously, like we said, were there certain extenuating circumstances due to COVID, due to supply chain issues, due to the fact that the acquisition of some supplemental or additional funding were curtailed because all of a sudden you can't get a hold of people at the state level or at the federal level because all of these people now are conveniently working from home, and when you send emails or you try to call, you either get voicemail or you don't get a reply. I mean, I think certainly that weighs into a portion of trying to mediate and remedy some of this.
Here's a question. How did the increase not require a referendum as it was over a $50,000 uptick? That's from Cindy.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. That I think that they had some hopes that they were going to be able to, as they worked through this project, that the ship was sort of going to be able to right itself. We're now and it wasn't able to. Now we're to the point where it's going to take an actual appropriation to be able to complete the project, and it's not really until the appropriation occurs that $50,000 value comes in for referendum. Or was it 20,000? I think for town meeting and so forth.
I would hope when we start doing some cutting that we don't cut it so much where it cheapens everything and now you got to replace this in another 5 years. You know what I'm saying, got to be smart when you say we're going to take this out and replace it. We're going to replace the countertops with cardboard. I mean, that doesn't make any sense because you know damn well you got to replace the cardboard.
Right. Nope,
so I hope that that when the decision is made, that it's made logically.
Right.
It makes sense.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. There is definitely a balancing point there between too frugal and being unreasonable.
There another comments are coming in fast and furious, and here's one. I think personally the biggest issue is signing a contract without a final plan and number, or at least the communication of that comes from Rich in Griswold here. Any comment from anybody on that, or is that pretty much
if you were building your own house, you wouldn't do it. You would make sure you have everything
sure
laid out what you're going to buy. I mean, Jim, you're a builder,
right? unless there's something that I don't know, this being a large project and perhaps how this went down is standard. I don't know that. I mean, that's not my thing. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, hey, go buy a car. You're not going to buy a car not knowing how much it costs. Hey,
right.
Well, you asked the question, Paul.
Yeah.
Materials went out of sight. Okay.
I agree.
mean, a 2x4 I was buying for $2 is over $6. Okay.
Right.
So that's part of the issue. And you always allow a contingency
In
you
the
know,
contract.
yeah, and especially on a project this size. I mean, there's so many different things that can screw it up. I mean, you know, it's
But it's a contract that if you said you were going to build this for, $25,000, and because the material went up by a few grand, let's face it, you signed the contract. They're not going to give you a contingency. That's where the contingency comes
no,
in.
And they mitigated some of that. The GC was very, as he said last night, they were pretty successful in that when they saw where things were going based on when COVID actually hit. Let's not forget that this went from, October to really mid-March before, COVID. And
Right.
I don't know when prices started to kind of go squirrely at that point, but he said that they immediately went to work on the subs to buy out subs and buy out contracts.
So they were
and
trying-
get everything locked in before prices went
they
crazy.
bought a lot of materials in
Yeah,
advance.
because they knew they
which-
weren't going to
which
be able
saved
to
them
increase it
a lot of
because
money.
you got a signed contract.
I mean, there's no question. There was discussion about reducing the cost to stay within the budget.
Right.
And that was certainly discussed at the hearing, at the board meetings. Unfortunately, I wasn't at all board meetings. I'm scattered all over the
Sure.
town with the different boards I'm involved in.
There were a lot of meetings that didn't occur too. That did
Yeah.
come up last evening also, that there were a lot of meetings. There had been a request and they had gotten all of the minutes and postings for meetings. And there were a lot of meetings that were canceled, no agenda items and whatnot. So,
I mean, I know one of the things that I thought was very important in that senior center is to have an emergency generator. Okay, that's another big chunk of money. So that was one of the, and I pushed very strongly for that. But that was another one of the items that were I'll use the term value engineered out to try and stay at that 7.3 is the number that I kind of remember in my mind as the target for the building. So we're in a hell of a position. We just got to move forward and solve it.
Well, it's like we don't have a choice.
What's that?
We don't have a choice.
Well, you do. I mean, you can just say,
Well, yeah, you
okay,
can just let it
we're
sit
gonna
there,
the building
but-
sit there
Well,
and be useful for
we're not gonna do that.
next 30
Well,
years.
Hopefully the referendum comes through and people realize that we need to finish it, not let it sit there, because that'd be stupid if we did that.
I agree.
We have to
I
get that thing.
I just think it's like you, Scott. I 100% agree with you. Earlier, you said it's poor communication. It's like, okay, nobody was having meetings, or meetings where some were not being held. Okay, that's fine. Email still works.
Right.
Phone still works. So I don't understand. I mean, I'm just talking as a schmuck that lives in town trying to figure this out.
Right.
Because I do not understand 99% of what happens on the Board of Finance or anything.
a heads up back in October of 19. Just, hey, we've got a situation right out of the gate.
Yeah. That's unfortunate it didn't happen. I guess they kind of depended on the grants coming in. They kind of expected that was going to happen, so you
They didn't anticipate everything.
didn't
getting shut
anticipate it
down
was
and-
going to all shut down
Right.
and then the
And
bottom
Tina
fell
did
out.
say last night that this stuff takes time.
Yeah.
It hasn't it's not completed yet. So
Right.
I mean,
Well, and that's what Todd had alluded to last evening also, that they had applied for,
the USDA.
the one back
Yeah.
in 2017 that has sat on someone's desk up there, and they've got to go ahead and they've just got to make the appropriation or something. So they had to renew the paperwork when the new administration came in 19, and it is, it's still sitting there. So I mean, 4 years. So it's a long time to have to wait to figure out whether you're not going to get this money.
Yeah, I mean, the infrastructure one I'm talking about, the Route 164 and the 201 one there. That was we were talking to USDA about grants for that project, and I ran all kinds of scenarios, Scott, where we got up to I'm not sure of the numbers anymore. It's 2 years ago since I looked at those numbers. $1 million grants. So we ran those numbers that way. We ran them with no grants and all kinds of things. We're still trying to get that grant from USDA.
Right.
and that's more than 2 years ago we
Right.
started talking about that
Right.
one.
And I think Todd had mentioned last evening, there was one portion of that infrastructure project that could be as much as 45%, I think, reimbursable. And there was another section of the project, and I want to say that might be, and I might have it backwards, water was 45% reimbursable and sewer was like 25% reimbursable, I think.
You're right. You clicked my
Um,
memory on that. Okay. Yeah. One of the delays was we separated that out. And I don't have the details. Okay. I think we split the water and the sewer because it was much greater. And that came from the suggestion of the USDA, I believe.
Yeah. And that's what he
And I
said
think
too. is
45% was the number.
That they every time that it looks like it moves forward, it seems like there's a change of personnel or it goes somewhere else, and now they've got another set of requirements. And that's what he was saying. That they thought everything was all set because they've been working with the USDA even before I think that went to referendum.
Oh yeah,
because they were trying to secure funding even before that to defray the
And
cost.
the USDA is working.
And
the USDA is also working a lot with residential stuff right now, especially with the housing market going boom. So they're backlogged with that as well. That's been huge.
I'm sure Mario was in constant contact with USDA as we were developing that whole thing.
Right. Yeah. Todd said last evening that there was another, they thought everything was all set, and they came back and said, okay, now that we have all of this, we want you to go ahead and we need a study done or engineered study or something. I don't know, on how, if you put this water in and it's here and you have towers, how are the towers going to balance against the water line, and how does that balance out? Or so that's yet another component that they're working on now to try to get that in, so that
and that's a relative compared to building the senior center, putting a few pipes in the ground is a relatively minor engineering issue.
Right. And then the other thing too, if you don't know where the gas is going to go out there, gas goes out there. Now you have another company that's going to assist in the payment, because Eversource will have to pay their portion to ship it out there as well. So which will reduce the cost.
So I mean, I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of pushback about the fact that, there was pushback on the finance board meeting, the previous one, about the infrastructure not having been started. Okay, we look, the money, the bonding was there. That money we could have started that project. Okay, but we're trying to save, $1 million to $2 million for the taxpayers by trying to let this stuff develop.
Yep. My theory on that whole project is this. If we get the USDA funding, and let's say we get both sets of funding, and we talked about that 45% being reimbursable, we talked about the 25% being reimbursable. My theory is that by the time we break ground, if we get that USDA funding, a large part of that funding is probably going to have to be used, instead of reimbursing, the grant monies, it's going to end up having to be used for the new price. Because I can't believe that if it was $6 million in 2019, it's going to be $6 million in 2022, we'll say, by the time everything lands.
Well, you can't, it depends on where the economy is really, because I mean, like when we did the roofing project on the high school, okay, the architect was estimating that, and again, I'm not positive about the numbers, 2.7, 2.9 million or something like that. What did we come in at? 1.6? Because we got out there really early before the big contractors had got their workload set for the season. And so they jumped on ours. If we had come in 2 or 3 months later than that, we would have probably paid the $2 million or $2.5 million that was there. Because as a contractor, once you've got your base load made, okay, you know where you're at, you're gonna just start raising your prices on every bid you put out there, because you don't really care if you get them.
Right. Well, of course, now cost of materials
Yep.
through the roof. I'm going to assume that on a $6 million town project, if it's town owned, it's probably going to be a prevailing wage project every year. Prevailing wages, go up. So certainly I think the price point now compared to where it was pre-COVID is probably significantly higher. So, hopefully when all this gets over with, we'll be finally ready to break ground and things will settle back to where they need to be. But
Yeah, well, part of the material escalation is just because of availability.
right.
You get five contractors bidding for one load of lumber.
Supply and demand.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
Is the cost of borrowing money that is going up lately, is that going to affect the bonded money, or is that rate, are those rates locked in?
So on the bond anticipation notes, those are locked in. We're going to convert those. I think the timeline to convert those into an actual bond was in June or July. But I'm not 100% sure. For some reason, I tend to think that rate's not locked in until we actually do the conversion. But
So that could be an additional cost, or is it nominal?
I think it's nominal, because don't forget we budgeted for those bond costs, back in 19, and rates are certainly significantly lower now than they were in 19.
Gotcha. Just want to mention real quick that this hour is being brought to you by Eastern Connecticut Savings Bank. What is Kasasa Cash Back? If you do not know, you can visit Eastern Connecticut Savings Bank on the World Wide Web. Does anybody even say World Wide Web anymore?
No. You don't even have to put the www.
You don't.
in.
No. BankEasternCT.com. BankEasternCT.com. All right, we are going to take a quick break. We will be back in just a couple of minutes right here. And hopefully we can keep Mr. Davis a little bit longer because he has a real job too. So we have to be respectful of that. We'll be back in a minute right here on SN.
The flagship for Griswold High School sports. And your home for local news and weather.
Broadcasting from Main Street in the borough of Jewett City.
The Streaming News and Sports Network. SNSN.
The 9 a.m. report on the Streaming News and Sports Network is being brought to you by Charlene's Diner, 37 Main Street, Jewett City. Family owned for almost 40 years. Order what you want, eat what you get. That's Charlene's Diner.
I love working here because of the people, and I get to work with my family every day.
Come to Charlene's Diner for the best breakfast you've ever had.
That was Brittany and Matt from Charlene's Diner on Main Street in Jewett City. There are only a few things that have been able to stand the test of time in Jewett City, and one of them just happens to be Charlene's Diner, who just celebrated their 40th anniversary in business. How do you stay in business that long in a small town like Jewett City? It's a simple recipe, really great food and friendly service. And of course, family. You'll feel like family too, because you'll always be greeted with a smile that makes you feel like you're right at home. Stop by for breakfast or lunch 7 days a week. If you don't have any time, well, that's no problem. Order ahead and your food will be waiting for you when you walk into Charlene's door. You can find Charlene's Diner on Facebook too. Stop in and join the family for breakfast or lunch today.
I'm Charlene. Come to Charlene's Diner and order what you want and eat what you get.
Here's a look at your local news headlines on SNSN Internet Radio. The town of Griswold had a couple of meetings last night. One was a Board of Selectmen meeting. Nothing of note there. It actually ended within 12 minutes. The real fireworks started at the Board of Finance special meeting, where they discussed the cost overruns of the new senior center on Taylor Hill. The cost overrun is just shy of $1 million. Connecticut residents aged 55 and older, as well as school employees, will now be eligible beginning March 1st to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, according to the state's new plan. Those groups will be followed by residents aged 45 to 54 on March 22nd, and those aged 35 to 44 on April 12th, and those aged 16 to 34 on May 3rd. The move rejects the formal guidance from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and from Lamont's very own vaccine advisory group, and changes the priority for the next phase of vaccinations away from essential workers and people with underlying health conditions. Griswold Parks and Rec is looking for local business and restaurants to set up a drive-through type of event and offer discounts on April 24th and all be part of the Griswold Unplugged Day. It just so happens to be Earth Day weekend as well. Griswold Unplugged is a whole slew of events inside the town of Griswold designed to get you away from the internet and video games, even if it's just for a day or so. If you are a Griswold business and want to participate, please contact Ryan Aubin by texting him at 860-213-1524. That's 860-213-1524. Here's a reminder for Griswold seniors. If you are having a problem signing up for your COVID-19 vaccine, help is available from the Griswold Senior Center. Simply call the center at 860-376-2604, and they will assist you in making the appointment for your vaccine. The Senior Center number again, 860-376-2604. Live high school sports on SNSN YouTube today as the Lady Griswold Wolverines take on the Lady Whippets of Wyndham. We will be streaming both the JV and the varsity game. The JV game will start at 4:30 and the varsity game at 6 p.m. So it's high school basketball, girls action tonight, Griswold and Wyndham. Check it out on the SNSN YouTube channel.
The 9 a.m. report on SNSN has been brought to you by Charlene's Diner, 37 Main Street, Jewett City. Family owned for almost 40 years. Order what you want. Eat what you get. That's Charlene's Diner.
Taking a look at the weather forecast for today. Sunny skies, temperatures reaching about between 48 and 51 degrees. It's going to be really nice out there in eastern Connecticut. And some of this snow is going to continue to melt and go right on down the drain. For tonight, temperatures dropping down to about 28 degrees, mostly cloudy skies. You may see some rain if you're up around 1 o'clock in the morning or so, but other than that, it'll just become mostly cloudy and then become mostly clear and then totally make way for sunny skies for Thursday here in the borough of Jewett City and in eastern Connecticut. So there you go. So yesterday was pretty nice. I mean, as far as the temperature was concerned.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be warmer today.
Yeah, 50 bomb. They said, is where it'll top out at. Yeah, so it's teasing us just a little bit, I think.
Yep.
With the weather.
That's from one weatherman to another.
Yeah, yeah. I am not a meteorologist. So we still have Scott Davis here. He hasn't walked out the door on us, so he's still here. How much time you got, Scott? Or are you on borrowed time now?
I'm sort of on borrowed time. At some point, I've got to go to my paying job.
Okay.
But I got a few more minutes.
So this has got to been a pretty tough last 24 hours, for you, just because of the fact that there's all this controversy, I guess you could say, with the senior center build out and the cost overrun reaching almost like $1 million, and then you're here talking about it all over again after a 2.5-hour meeting last night.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you inviting me in so that we can talk about it and get this information out. It's been difficult. I think that all of us were tasked with trying to find a solution to an extremely difficult, problem, and trying to figure out the best solution that's going to result in the least amount of impact on the taxpayers. Now, of course, I say that with the understanding that, as you know, I'm a firm believer that once we have kind of dialed in what we believe the best solution is, that I think that everybody in the town should have the opportunity to be able to vote on that independently and individually, so that it really becomes the will of the people and not the will of a board.
Yeah. And that's kind of what it was last year because of COVID. All the boards really pretty much had their own, You know, they voted on stuff. The board. How hard was that really for you to be a part of a board that was saying, okay, us alone, we are deciding what the budget is. I mean, that had to be put you in a tough spot.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I know no one else on the board enjoyed having to do that. We always try to approach the budget such that balance the needs of the community against kind of I'll call it affordability, and I use that as a really, really vague and broad definition because everybody is different.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that everybody's going to be impacted. We look forward to having that voter input. Over the years, there have been changes to the referendum where we say, you're not only going to be able to vote on the education budget and the town budget independently, but you're going to be able to answer that question. Do you think that the education budget is too high or too low? Do you think that the town budget is too high or too low? To give us some input and some direction that if for some reason it's not passed, what is the will of the people? Where do we need to go from here? I'm not a big fan of that, kind of authoritarian type style where here's what you're going to get because we've decided this is best for you.
Gotcha.
Our role as I see it is really not that. Our role is to say, okay, here's where we think we should head. What do you think?
You'll never make a good politician.
Hey, as you and I have talked, I am on this board because I enjoy community service. I don't like politics. I don't like the backdoor talks. I don't like, hey, what are you going to do? What about this? What about that? I don't like agendas. You know me, I come in every meeting, every time with a clean slate. I might have an opinion, but I'm not so pig-headed that I'm not afraid to listen to the conversation. And quite often, my opinion has changed by the time the conversation has ended. That's just the way that I work. And you're right, I wouldn't make a good politician because I don't have a stomach for it. I don't like it.
I have a philosophy that I developed developed a number of years ago, and that is, I love talking politics, religion. I don't care what it is, Scott. As long as I can have a civil conversation with you, you probably are not going to change my mind, and I'm probably not going to change yours. What I hope to come away from it with is a new idea that I will go away and evaluate and see how it fits into my value system.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, I also say I might as well learn, and this is tongue in cheek, I might as well learn, I should learn something new every day, or I might as well be dead because I've stopped growing.
Sure. No, makes sense.
Yeah. That's a good thought process.
Yeah.
I think last night you did an excellent job in controlling the meeting. There was no screaming and yelling. I mean, you got a little irritated, which is understandable. There was really not really any finger pointing per se, where you were naming names and things like that, which was good. So I think you did a great job last night. I really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think so too. I didn't see the first, 30 minutes of it or so.
Yeah, I heard there was some difficulty getting into it. I looked at the password. I think to get in the meeting was so small that, I don't know, the C almost looked like an E, and then you had a 1 at the end. And is it a 1 or is it an L? And there were a lot of people that, from what I understand, was struggling to get in. So maybe with the next agenda, we can take that login and password code and we can make it, 14 font or something like that, so that it's a little easier to decipher.
Can you guys put in a text document instead of a PDF? Because, like, for example, that. What the heck? I mean, can you put a text document in instead of a PDF so that way it can be copy and pasted or even enlarged a little bit?
I can inquire on that. I suspect that they probably do it as a PDF because it being an agenda item, it's not easily, not that it can't be, but it's not as easily modified or altered.
Yeah,
somebody's got to be getting in touch with me trying to.
I had the same problem. I mean, because I just have an icon on my computer. I just click on the icon, put the numbers for the meeting number and put the password in. But the 1 and the L, I did that about 6 different times.
Yeah.
Okay. Couldn't get in. I finally just closed everything down, came in again. That didn't work. And I forget how I finally get in there. Oh, I finally entered the entire long path, the whole long code.
Man.
Oh, geez.
Okay.
The problem I had was the C and the E. Originally, I looked at it, I thought it was an E.
Yep.
Then I went
That's
back
what I thought at first. That's
and
what I
went
thought
back,
at first
and I went
too.
back and I made it a C, and I got.
You know, so we're in the middle of the meeting and I'm getting texts. Hey, your link doesn't work. Hey, the password doesn't work. I'm, trying to text under the screen what the password is to the thing.
But how could you even copy the link because it was
It's
a
too
PDF?
long.
Yeah.
That thing must have been 30 characters
Oh,
long.
it was more than that.
Yeah.
I typed every one of them in.
Oh
What I
my
was
God,
concerned about, you make one error and it's gone.
Right.
Well, the other option is to download the Zoom client on your computer, and then you just sign in like any other account, whether it's social media or whatever, and then you can just put the meeting ID in, and then the password.
Well, I've already
So-
got an icon there. I click the icon, it comes up, and I just enter the meeting number. And the
Yeah, that's all
password.
you should have to do. Yeah,
Oh, that's
but
all I-
some
that's
people
always done that.
don't. They're relying on a link.
Uh-huh.
Can't they make on the PDF? Can't they make
Set it up as a hyperlink, maybe?
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe.
That could be something.
Is that
maybe
something
a
we?
little
I'll throw
easier.
that out there at the very least. I'll ask that, when that gets submitted on my behalf, that they at least increase the font size. So, if it comes up a little squirrely where is it a C or an E or one or an L or a capital I, you're able to differentiate them.
Cindy says easy fix for that. Make it a clickable link on the website. And Rich says a separate message with a link would be great. So
I'll pencil that in.
There
I'll
you
pencil that
go.
into my things to do list.
Do we know how many people?
Well, that's pretty
actually
short,
on-
isn't it?
What?
Do we know how many people were actually viewing the meeting last night? Was there?
Well, it was about 28 maximum on the screen through Zoom, but I don't know
Yeah.
about Facebook.
Initially there were quite a few. I want to say maybe in the 30s, maybe low 40s initially, but after all the audio, issues, it dropped off, and I think we had probably a constant 20 or so on there.
25 was pretty solid for quite a while. Yeah.
I know Dana Bennett on her stream, she was topping out at about 50.
Okay.
So say
Is she the one that was
25,
walking around?
30.
I couldn't
Yes,
see because
yeah.
my picture was this big.
Yeah, thank God for Dana or somebody had had a device that would okay, you know what? Nobody can hear this, and she took the lead. So
yeah, no, that worked out well.
It
The other-
did. She did a wonderful job.
The other thing that was bothersome to me was I didn't know. Like I said, I had trouble getting in, so I didn't hear the very beginning. I mean, I heard you speaking, but you roll call and stuff like that. Normally they just say roll call is all taken care of. I didn't know who was there from the Board of Finance last night. Okay.
Oh, because
There was
of,
no
of
way-
being able to see everybody on that camera.
Yeah, and you get Yvonne's iPad or Joe Beer his cell phone or something. That doesn't mean anything. So I didn't even know who was participating. Other than I saw Gail, saw you. I didn't see Dan, but it's pretty hard not to recognize him. Okay, I saw Alex. Never saw Mike Attell. Could hardly hear him.
Yep.
Oh, I heard him well.
And then we had Val Grills was there. Also.
Yeah, I didn't know that until the very end.
Oh, I mean, that was our first hybrid, so obviously, there's a little bit of a learning curve there as well.
I'm not criticizing. I'm
but-
just making comments.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because that helps us moving on to the next one. I mean, I don't think we're ready to start doing this all the time. Probably once this wraps up, we'll go back to, unfortunately, the complete virtual. But no, those comments are very helpful in trying to strategize how we can correct that so that those that are tuning in don't have the same problem. I don't want another meeting where you can't hear anything or you can't see anybody.
Are we on air or not?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've been on there. Did you say something you didn't want
No,
to?
no. I know. I was gonna say something that I don't want to put on here. So that's
Oh,
why I
okay.
was
You
just
need to
verifying.
smile.
Well, actually, we're going to take a break because I know Scott has to go to work. Yeah.
We're not like us old guys.
No, it was in regards to Scott's last comment about we're probably going to go all virtual again.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. No. No. Let's not do it. All right, Scott, thank you very much for, I mean,
You're welcome.
I asked you last night and boom, you were here like 11
Anytime-
hours later. So
anytime I was able to pull it off coming in, I mean, you know that. Otherwise, I can give you a call at pretty much anytime.
yeah, we can do it anyway, whether it's virtual or on the phone or it's always better to have you here.
It's good to
you
be
know,
here.
But still, anyway.
I'd forgotten what y'all looked like, so.
No, you were looking at me. You said
That's a
last night.
blessing. All right, man. We'll see you. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Scott Davis, the Board of Finance Chairman here in the town of Griswold. Of course, always a lot of great information from Scott. So I'm sure a lot more will be coming out of the senior center stuff. And this is not to at all to make or pull the rug underneath or out from underneath people at the senior center or anything like that. We're certainly going to we want to have them come in, and talk as well. The other day when you called in, Scott, I did call Tina Falk, but she was unavailable. But I'm certainly, Tina has always been very forthcoming with information, as well.
Anything she does for the senior center is always for the good.
She does, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So,
Her heart's totally in the right
Her
place.
heart and soul is
Yes.
in that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, she is one dedicated lady.
Yep, absolutely, and yeah, I've seen that being here 6.5 years. She's really incredible. So, all right, we're going to take a break for news as well, right here on SN Internet Radio. Be back in just a bit.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
We are the future. Griswold Parks and Rec is a parent's one-stop source for all things fun. Town events, sports, fitness, and enrichment for all ages. We love our residents. Let us prove it. Go to griswoldrec.org.
Hello, I'm Miranda Mahoney, Project Coordinator of Griswold Pride, your drug-free community coalition. We want to help you keep your kids safe during this challenging time. Social distancing is still in effect, and so is the social host law. Reports are coming in that teens are contracting the virus at underage drinking parties. Parents, allowing underage drinking on your property could land you in jail for up to a year, plus fines. Another reason why you should not provide alcohol to our youth. For more info, go to griswoldpride.org. griswoldpride.org. griswoldpride.org.
You buy better. Better with Burns. Much better. So much better with Burns. The right insurance at the right price. You buy better with Burns. You buy better with Burns. You buy better.
When was the last time you considered the benefits of having all your insurance handled in one place? One number to call, a licensed account manager dedicated to your policies, discounts for having your policies with one company. The list goes on. Did you know the Burns Agency has a team dedicated specifically to home, auto, umbrella, flood, life insurance, business insurance, including workers' comp and professional policies? We do it all. Call, email, chat us online today. Experience the products and service our loyal customers receive and appreciate. The Burns Agency, proudly serving Eastern Connecticut since 1932.
Do you have a junk car or maybe one that got blown up and caught on fire? The guys from Scrap for Cash, they don't care. They're going to come to you. They're going to tow it away for free, and then they're going to pay you $275 for it. Scrap for Cash will turn that heat in your backyard into money so you can pay bills, taxes, groceries.
A night on the town.
Find Scrap for Cash on Facebook or call 860-373-2556. Scrap for Cash.
As a business, your customers are your first priority. At Jewett City Savings Bank, their first priority is helping businesses like yours to succeed. Here's what Rick Hermanot of Econ Hill Turkey Farm in Sterling had to say about doing business with Jewett City Savings Bank.
Well, when we started our farm, it was just a little more than a hobby. We had 10 or 15 turkeys, then we grew to 30, then we grew to 60. Our goal was to double every year. Pretty quickly, though, we got to where we needed a bank to work with. We were looking to develop a lending relationship as we grew our business, and Jewett City was there for us from the start. We started out just buying
And then sunny skies once again for tomorrow on Thursday. Temperatures around 41.
Online and mobile.
The greatest rock and roll ever made.
9 to 5, usually. Like I listen to it in my work and in my car.
SN.
And good morning. Welcome back to the show. It's 9:33. Scott Davis was here for the, a good 75 minutes or so, talking to us about the senior center and the cost overruns. And one of the things that I do want to, and I hope you guys would, I'm sure you will co-sign, is it's not, we don't hold the senior center, the personnel or anything like that accountable or anything. They're trying to do the right thing.
I mean, I think so. Yeah, I don't believe they were trying to do something intentionally.
And true to form, I was listening to Tina last night, and she is there working for the seniors.
Absolutely,
she's working for the seniors, and she
And
does
that's
a
her
wonderful
job.
exactly.
That's her job.
She's doing exactly what she's supposed to do. I'm glad they're building a new senior center.
Well, I think what happened was when this thing started, they had the grants ready to go, the whole thing, and they said, okay, we're going to get these, so let's do this. And unfortunately, everything hit.
And for what she's paid, she is the best. She's one of the best bargains this town has.
So,
Yeah.
let's not beat her up over this. That's for sure.
Oh no, none of this is aimed at her, or.
But there's a lot of
by-
flack that's going to come at her.
Exactly.
Okay,
And she was,
and it's not deserved.
She was very poignant last night.
I
when
couldn't
she-
hear her.
when she said, "Well, I was on the Facebook stream that Dana Bennett was providing."
Yeah, okay.
And she was very poignant and was very direct that the grants take time. They're working on them.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do?
Yeah.
They're doing the best that they can. One of the things that I know that they didn't mention last night is when they're talking about the USDA. The USDA, they're working on a lot of residential stuff because of the rates being low and the market going, full goose bozo right now.
Yeah.
They have that. Plus they have the backlog of COVID crap going on. So that's going to extend time on that.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Why in hell should the U.S. Department of Agriculture be involved in home building? I mean, I know they are. They've been there for decades. Okay. Why is that their purview?
I don't know. Diversification, another revenue stream. That's the only thing I can think of. Because Freddie Mac and isn't getting it done.
And I'd say the same thing about infrastructure. Why are they in infrastructure? There's just an expansion of every government entity. All they do is they continue to expand to build their power.
Yeah. Well, the other thing we don't know now with the change of guard in Washington now, what the hell's going to happen?
Oh,
We don't know.
prices are going up.
We know that.
Gas is going up, 60 cents in 3 months?
It's gone up 40 to 60 cents in less than 30 days. Jesus. Oh, it's just over 30 days now.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
They're saying that mortgage rates are going up.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
There goes the housing market.
I heard the housing market was slowing down.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that here. Maybe nationally.
Nationally, perhaps.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, there's not much on the market here at any kind of a reasonable price.
No, nothing. So people are bidding on houses now just to get it.
Yeah.
People are they're leaving the cities, and that's
for good reason.
Well, yeah, and it's driving people, into residential areas and suburbs like Griswold, Jewett City, Patchogue, Voluntown.
Yeah.
And if COVID lessens up, I think you're going to see less people because the fear is going to be lessening and going away.
You want to control the people, make them fear.
Fear is an incredible tool.
Okay.
It's an incredible tool.
It's unfortunate the gas prices are going up too, because now we're coming out of this COVID thing by summer. Hopefully, a lot of people are going to be wanting to travel and do things. A lot of people bought these RTVs. These.
The RV business is absolutely
expanded, and now with the gas price is going to go up. How are you going to be able to afford to drive one of those things?
If you can't afford,
right back to we were 10 years ago.
To buy the gas, don't own one.
Well, a lot of people bought them because they could get the family together and go on a trip someplace without, Plus the gas was cheap.
Is this just more poor planning on the part of people?
Well, maybe. But
What are you going to do?
nobody realized
You know?
the gas prices were going to go up again either.
Oh, come on, Paul. How can you not realize it?
Well, we've been on the gravy train for a while.
Yeah, we have been.
Now we're not. We're back
Yeah.
off again. So
I think when I was coming back from the Southwest, maybe it was when I was headed for the Southwest a number of years ago, it was about almost $4 a gallon.
yeah, well, they don't want you using. They want you depend on. They want you to buy electric cars and electric this and electric that. Green Deal stuff.
Texas is a good example of that, isn't it?
It's a very good example of that. Which shows that it will not work in the Northeast.
Well, it's part of the parody that I was going to read off one of these days.
Weather control.
Well, I mean,
weather control in Texas.
No, it was a tongue-in-cheek response to the closing of the.
You
Keystone
mentioned
Pipeline.
it.
Yeah, I had it here one day.
Yeah.
But,
we would not be able to live on solar power and
Why?
alone in windmills because of if it gets snow, you're not going to get the thing stuff being generated.
yeah, I was driving down 395 and I saw a massive solar field up there someplace.
They're all over the place.
It was absolutely covered in snow. Still the day after it snowed. Okay, and are you going to have a $5,000 battery bank in your yard someplace that they can collect solar power so that when the sun doesn't shine, that you're going to be able to turn on your TV or your radio?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to have something other than we need to have
Gotcha.
backup.
No, I'm asking because I don't know.
It's a nice.
I'm not trying to piss you off. I'm
No,
asking
I know.
because I don't know.
I mean, I'm not even sure how the furnaces they have in Texas. Do they have anything that's sufficient that would heat the house?
Mostly it was electric heat. That's the big problem. See, electric heat.
So mostly it's electric heat because
I
they had their own. Well, they're on their own grid anyway.
I mean, unless a customer specifically tells me they want electric heat, I would never put electric
No, I
heat.
mean,
because
not up here.
I had a guy come to me and said he wanted to put solar panels on the house, and it was going to be like $50,000. And they said, "Oh, with government grants, it'll bring the cost down to about 22." And then he quoted me a price of what it was going to cost me per month to go ahead and have these solar panels on my house. Okay, great. Then he told me how much it was going to generate. So I'm still, and he did tell me I'm still going to need my local power company, of
course, absolutely,
to go ahead. So I'm saying, okay, I'm adding this up and this up. And I told the guy, I said, I'm actually paying more. I'm paying more, for going the way you're telling me I should.
Yeah.
And for what? Yeah. And then you're increasing the value of the house. Okay, fine. And then 20 years, the panels got to get replaced anyway?
Yeah.
So I said, you're not really helping me.
I mean, I saw an article someplace, and because I've been speculating on this for a long time, whereby you look at the cost from the time you mine the materials out of the ground through the whole production and process, and you dispose of all the hazardous waste when your vehicle is totally done. And the analysis that I saw, and I wish I could find it and put my hands on it again, was that there was no real savings. Okay, so one of these mornings I'm going to talk about CO2.
Gotcha. Well, we'll have to see what happens.
I mean, I'm not against solar or wind. I'm just saying,
no,
it can't be your base load.
Yeah, it can't be the only thing you have. Got to have some backup. Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question. It has nothing to do. It's a totally different subject.
Okay.
So it's more about the ergonomics of our studio here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I'm planning, and the reason I'm telling you is because we built this out with 5 microphones, really on your suggestions. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that. Well, we're going to go down to 3. We're going to go back down to 3, maybe a 4th, maybe. And we're going to go ahead and lower this table down. And we're going to go back to a sit-down method. Because one of the reasons is that if I'm sitting here and have a guest that's over here.
Yeah, you can't see them.
It's very unnatural, to go ahead and, have eye contact with them, and have a conversation with them. So that's one thing. Second thing is that we're going to go ahead and decorate this out, make it look like a little living space, make it a little homey and stuff like that. What do you think?
I think what you're suggesting is a good thing, Mike. Basically, you're the MC, and you should be in a position where you can easily monitor each mic at its particular place. Now, I know you're concerned about the acoustic, the feedback.
Yeah.
The feedback issue.
Well, it sounds hollow.
Okay.
We're gonna get new. You guys are gonna have new microphones too.
So are you keeping the same physical arrangement you got right here? You must not be.
The table's gonna stay the same. If you look at the legs,
Where are you going to be?
same place. We're all gonna be the same. We're just gonna be
Drop it down.
drop it low,
Okay,
drop it low,
so
drop
how,
it
I
low.
can see where
so
you
how's
can
that,
drop it down.
so you still get your back to those mics over there, Mike? That's not solving that problem.
Not if my microphone is over here.
Oh, okay.
See what I
Okay.
mean?
Yes. So you're going to move your console over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's gonna happen is that your
This is
mic
going to
arm.
move over here.
No, it's gonna be pretty much the same. Boom, boom, boom.
Why not move this one over there? Move this one down to the corner, and then you can still keep.
We could
your
do that
five
too.
mics.
Either
But
that
we're gonna get new microphone arms as well. They're gonna be similar to this, so it'll give the user a lot more flexibility.
Yep.
On how, and plus you guys are gonna get these microphones right here about $500 a piece. So we were fortunate to get some PPP money. So some of the things that we were going to build out on or have been wanting to, we're able to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I thought you were conceivably going to change the configuration here. I don't know. I didn't know.
Ooh, my friend Roxana says, Mike, if you need some help, my husband is a sound engineer. But you're in Indiana. You're in Indiana. How's that going to happen? So
You're going to bring them out here on your PPP mic.
no, from what I understand, my friend Roxana and her husband are going to be visiting here sometime this summer, and it'll be really nice to see. I've never met him. But it'll be really nice to see Roxana because I haven't seen her in a long time. She's always been a friend. Always been a friend. So, and we're going to put another TV monitor up there, so it'll be behind us, and we'll like stream like news or whatever behind there. And we're going to have 2 camera shots.
You want to
So
put
we'll be able
a,
to switch back and
you
forth.
should put a TV where the people here can see the Facebook Live thing. They could actually see.
Mount that in that corner.
Well, we could do that.
So we could see the Facebook.
We could
Live
do that
stuff.
right there because see that TV that's been sitting there.
Yeah.
We can absolutely do that. So here's the bottom line: we don't have any big old angel investors,
true.
forking his money.
Yeah.
We're doing it on our own, and I would rather do it that way.
Yeah.
So what you're going to just shorten these legs? Is that what you're going to do, Mike, on these tables? Yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to lower them down. The only thing that's going to have to be done is there's a leg over here on this side.
Oh, these are already adjustable. Okay.
Yeah, that one you have to.
But this one's going to have to be rebuilt because it's a wooden leg.
Oh yeah.
Can send it out to Tiger Woods. You may need that.
Good.
You didn't get the joke. Okay. All right, it's going to wrap things up for us here. We thank you for joining us. We thank Scott Davis from the Board of Finance. A lot of fireworks going on there with what's going on with the cost overruns. Good information from Scott. None of it, of course, is, we didn't bash anybody. Of course, there's no reason to bash anybody, especially from the town. And please, whatever you do, don't give the staff at the senior center any bunk, man. They got nothing to do with it. They are doing their job supporting the seniors. That is what they are doing. And Tina Falk has been very transparent about what she's doing and how she is doing it. So, and I respect Tina a great deal.
As I said earlier, she's a fabulous resource for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, that's going to do it. 9:47. We're out of here tomorrow morning. Joe, the time traveler, time travel Thursday. It's always a blast.
Maybe he can tell you what happens with the senior center.
Oh, you are a comedian, Paul. All right, have a good day, everyone. See you tomorrow.
The legends live here.